Hello everyone, welcome to week 8 of IS 688, where we cover the second half of Module 5 on clustering. Before we move into that lecture though, as usual I have a few announcements. Note that Assignment 3, which covers Modules 3 and 4, was due last week. So at this point that brings us to the first 3 assignments for your Medium posts have now been assigned and are now due. All Assignment 1 Medium posts that have been submitted so far, except for a couple that were submitted yesterday, have been graded. Those grades and feedback for you are available on Canvas. I encourage you to go review the feedback I've given you. All feedback I give you is meant to be actionable, so you can read that and see this is what you should do in your next assignment. The grade distribution for Assignment 1, the average was about an 87.8. I think the high was like a 97, and the low was a 75. With everything being in the mid to high B or low A range. So like I said, if you review your Canvas or review the feedback I've provided for you on Canvas, you are welcome to take any of those comments and then update your Assignment 2 or 3 posts using those comments. If you do that though, please send me a note to let me know so I can give you the opportunity to retract and then resubmit your post before grading. Regarding Assignment 2, so 15 stories have been posted to Medium, and Assignment 3, 8 stories have been posted to Medium. So the course has 20 to 27, 28 students, something like that. Most everybody has submitted Assignment 1. A majority of you has submitted Assignment 2, and then about a third of you have submitted Assignment 3. Note that I have my TA working on grading now. So in the future, as new assignments come in, or new submissions are submitted to the class publication, those will be graded rapidly in order of the assignment number. So now any new assignment 1 that comes in is going to be graded before new assignments for Assignment 2 or 3, but they should be turned around to you much faster now. For the backlog of Assignments 2 and 3, those should be graded over spring break. So by the time you get back, and we have class or lecture 2 weeks from now, all the Assignment 2 and 3 content should be graded. Assignment 4, which is the next Medium post due, is due at the end of the month. So this post is about clustering, or this assignment is about clustering and evaluating or describing clusters that you've identified in a particular data set of your choice. The semester project, so the data collection reports, all feedback for those reports has been returned to you. I uploaded all of those, I think, Tuesday evening. There are generally 2 main questions that I had based on your report. The first one was, did you actually collect enough data to mine something, to actually analyze in a reasonable way? And then for the data that you've collected, the last question for the data report was, what sort of pre-processing or cleaning do you need to do? How much of that have you done so far, and how are you planning to process your data? In particular, if you're looking at text, you need to be thinking about featurization or already have some answer to this question of featurizing your text content to learn something about it. Because this is going to feed into your intermediate report, which is due in 2 weeks. So not during spring break, but the week after the week you get back from spring break, your intermediate report is going to be due on that Wednesday, so that's the 24th. In this report, so it's 2 pages per student. The main things that you need to describe, you need to have some answer for your data pre-processing, because critically, you have to have some preliminary analysis that you want to talk about. What progress have you made towards the goal that you set out? What have you tried? What kind of analysis have you done? So it's critical that you do that, because the evaluation for this intermediate report is not an evaluation that I will give you directly. Your evaluation will be shared among your fellow students. So all the students in the course will do what's called a double-blind analysis or a double-blind review, where you will not know who your reviewers are, your reviewers will not know who they are reviewing, and then your fellow students will be asked to explain what the main contribution of your project is, what are its key strengths, what are its weaknesses, and then I will ask your fellow students to grade all of the midterm reports. So you need to be thinking about convincing your fellow students about how the problem you're working on is an important problem or a useful problem. Because remember, data mining is about generating actionable and non-obvious insights from your data. So you need to convince your students that you are getting something that's useful and it's something that requires more than just counting data in Excel. And you need to show that you've made real progress. So you've collected some data, that preliminary analysis piece is to show that you have made progress. So this is going to be, as you move into this, you're going to be running into issues about how you make that progress. How do you deal with featureizing your data? How do you make sure that you can analyze all of this on your machine? These kinds of things. This is not necessarily the best time for your intermediate report or this kind of an analysis project. But remember, as you get to the point, or as you make further progress, things will start to become easier once you reach a critical point where you know what you need to do, you have some issues that you've identified, and then you can move forward. So hopefully between your intermediate report and your presentation, you will be in a better position over the course of April. That covers the assignments for Medium and the semester project. In terms of lecture, there are 2 weeks to this module, and in week 1, last week, we talked about comparing and contrasting methods for hierarchical clustering, how we represent clusters of multiple points, calculating distance between these clusters of points, and detailing possible methods or detailing methods for evaluating stopping conditions when we're doing hierarchical clustering. So in week 2, we're going to transition to looking specifically at k-means. So at the end of last week, I identified some issues with the hierarchical clustering approach. And here we'll talk about k-means, which has a lot of extensions that can be used to accelerate clustering or optimize or facilitate clustering of large data sets. But we won't talk about a number of those optimizations since they're in the book. My objective here instead is to talk about the general idea behind k-means and how it identifies clusters, how you actually initialize k-means so you can understand where the clusters are initially come from, and then methods for selecting the number of clusters. So there's a follow-on from the conversation at the end of last week. We want to talk about when do we decide to stop clustering. As in all the modules, there is a discussion forum. If you have any questions about clustering, either hierarchical or k-means, how you find an appropriate k, all these kinds of things, feel free to post in the Module 5 discussion forum. For next week, so next week is spring break, so you do not have anything that's specifically due next week, though do keep in mind that in the week after that, so the week you get back from spring break, we will be starting Chapter 9 on recommendation systems. So Chapter 9 will actually spend the most time on over the course of the semester. It will cover 3 weeks. In week 1, we will talk about sections 9.1 and 9.2, which is primarily introducing recommendation systems. And then we'll talk in week 2 about 9.3, which is collaborative filtering, and then 9.4, some extensions on recommendation systems. So be thinking about or take some time to familiarize yourself with the material in the book about recommendation systems for the week after spring break. Also on that week, like I mentioned, is your intermediate report. So that's due on the 24th, so that's on Wednesday after you get back. And then the week after that is assignment 4, which is your Medium post about clustering for Module 5. So if you have any questions about anything in terms of the announcements or grading or anything along those lines, feel free to reach out to me and post on the discussion forum as needed.